I don't know. I think if you really are a knife lover, at some point you need a knife from Takeda-san, at least one. Like I've got this one, I've got a small Kobunk, I've got a slicer, I've got an Akiri, I've got a larger Gyuto, but this one's the one I use the most, the 240, or what do they call, medium?
3 pocket knives.
Oh, I've got 3 pocket knives from Takeda-san too. One of them tried to kill me. I have an axe, that's right. Okay, okay. I'm a fan of Takeda-san. I really am a fan of what he does. I love how he thinks about knives, and I love how he makes his knives and his pocket knives and his axes. So I have quite a collection. So Takeda-san is a really hotshot blacksmith from Nimi. The big deal about his knives is that they're very thin, they're very light, and they look super unique. Every knife nerd, every knife lover needs at least one Takeda-san knife in their repertoire, I think. Like, a collection's not complete until you've got one from him because there is such a unique blade.
全然違っちゃってるから、いけるかなっていう感じかな。少しここをしつこく。
Takeda-san's knives are very unique in several different ways. First of all, how he forges is very, very unique. He makes the knife really, really tall. He makes knife very thin. And I think the thinness is what makes his knives stand out from the, I guess, rest of the other Japanese knives. He hammers a lot more to attain that thinness with his spring hammer. If you look from the spine of his knives, and it almost has its own kind of taper-ish, and it even has its kind of thinner portion in the middle of the blade. It almost looks like it does have the bit of concavity on the middle of the blade, and it was attained mostly by hammering it, not like grinding out.
Well, I like Takeda. Him and I have been buddies now for, what, 19 years? So I bought my first Takeda knife, this one here. It's like a 240 millimeter Gyuto. And I bought this in, when I bought this, 2007. So right when we first started Knifewear. And it's interesting, I've brought a brand new one here as well to compare because the knives have changed quite a bit since, I guess in 19 years. The first time I bought a knife from Takeda, it was online, it was on his website. There was only one other place in the world to buy it. There was some knife store out of the States that mostly sold tactical knives and hunting knives, and for whatever reason had a few of Mr. Takeda's kitchen knives. So I bought it directly from him, sent him an email, "Hello, Shosui-san, I'd like to buy a knife, blah, blah." And it came, and it arrived. I remember when it first arrived, I thought, oh my God, it's so thin and so light and so weird looking. Like the shape is so unusual. It reminded me almost of a canoe paddle in ways. Now this has been sharpened a number of times, so the shape has changed quite a bit. Not quite a bit, the shape's changed a bit, but it used to have more of a round at the front here. I didn't like that, so I've kind of adjusted the shape to the way I like.
I was able to see him working on the old AS with the carbon steel knives, as well as his new NAS series. And also, when you look at the knives that came in for sharpening, very early stages in Knifewear, we actually did have the Aogami #1 knives as well. So it's actually, we've seen quite a bit of a transition on how his knives evolved from like Aluminium number 1 steel, Aluminium Super, how he forged it, and now NAS. The shapes gradually changed. Well, he came up with the new shapes as well. And now he's like, this most recent batch of knives that we received, it has very unique features, slightly different from what it has been in last probably for 5 years. His knives has a little bit more, slightly thicker tang, and tapers it down towards the tip as well, which is really, really cool to see how his knives are evolved over the last, I guess, 10, 15 years. For only I've been working for this industry, and how much it changed is very fascinating. And I think he's one of those like guys who always wants to make better knives. I think that's what it is, and he can adjust and he can do that because of the small team that he's working with, and he always has the idea in his brain and kind of that he can implement into.
The first time I visited Takeda-san was a real eye-opener, because everybody else I'd been visiting on that trip lived near a major Shinkansen station. So the Shinkansen is the bullet train in Japan, right? And the stations are massive and they're central. To get to Takeda-san's place in Nimi, you have to grab a small local train, and it's really a magical ride. Like, you go past lakes and around lakes and through mountains and valleys, and you've got kind of great big, well, let's call them big hills. Maybe not they're maybe not mountains exactly, but there's big hills, and there's clouds and mist stuck in them all the time, fog, and it feels like at any moment you might see a dragon. Like, it's really mystical, but it's also about 26 or 28 degrees on that train, and it's an old train that goes slow, and it rocks you back and forth like this. And eventually, in the 2-hour or 1.5-hour trip, it is, after about 40 minutes, I start to get really sleepy every time. Just because I'm rocking and I'm too hot. And I wake up at the end of the line. Thank God, because that's where he is. So you can't miss the stop, which is nice. I do remember when I asked him, what's your story about being a blacksmith? And he was saying that his dad was a blacksmith, and he didn't really want to be. He wanted to be a salaryman. He wanted to live in a big city, so he moved to Tokyo, and he got a job that he thought was the best job ever. Now, you have to be of a certain age to know this item, but it was called a laser disc. And it was in the format of a LP, like a record, like a vinyl record. It was about that size. And it was just kind of a big floppy disk that you could plug into this weird machine, put it down, it would play videos, like movies. But he was selling karaoke laser discs. So, because all the big karaoke shops invested heavily in these laser discs because it was a better quality, or they just had a good salesman. So whereas laser discs, I think they were available at Blockbuster for about a year. They weren't really around very long. So he was doing that. He said, I'm gonna go out and have fun and go to bars and hang out with people who want to buy karaoke laser discs. And one time, I think he said he was about 27, he had come back to his town to see his parents for Golden Week. And I don't know if you know what Golden Week in Japan is like, but it's kind of like, I'd say it's kind of like our Christmas holiday here in Canada, where people go and visit their family and they get back together. And there's Golden Week, there's really 5 days of very little work, unless you work in the hospitality industry or retail. But most offices and everything are closed. And it's a time for family. And he said he just realized when he was back there that making things with his hands and becoming a blacksmith was something he actually wanted to do. He'd never wanted to before. And that's when he started. And he had talked early to a chef that had told him, if you make a really thin knife, it's going to cut food better. So he started trying to make knives thinner and thinner and thinner and thinner, to the point now, like, if you have one of his knives, like, you can see how thin the blade is. And a thin knife is great because it just passes right through food really easily, and it always feels sharp.
Most Japanese knives, they have a construction called it's got a flat part, hira. They have these called shinogi or the kiriha. It tapers all the way down to the edge. Then they sharpen the final edge called koba. Because his knives are really, really thin and the middle part is super thin, he only sharpens probably about centimeter or even less, and sharpens in a way that it almost acts like this bevel is a whole edge. He does not put another secondary bevel on them. That makes his knives actually have very good food release.
I don't know. I think if you really are a knife lover, at some point you need a knife from Takeda-san, at least one. I don't know if you've ever seen videos of how he sharpens knives, but it's really interesting. He takes the knife and he'll hold it kind of off the edge of something, and he has a sharpening stone in his hand, and he rubs the sharpening stone up and down on the knife. And I remember the first time I saw that, I was like, what are you doing? I was kind of having a little fun with him, kind of making fun of him a bit. But as you know, his knives are crazy sharp when they arrive, so he knows what he's doing. But I said, why on earth are you doing like that? That's so strange. Like, I usually put the knife on the stone and move it back and forth on the stone. And he said, nah, he says, you're always wrong. He says, think about if you had to paint your fingernails. He goes, you would look at the part you're painting. You wouldn't hold your fingernails down and then kind of paint blindly. He goes, that's how you're sharpening your knife when you hold the knife on the stone. You're just sharpening blindly. And I like that. And I've tried his technique loads, and I get better results with my techniques. That's how it works.
He was working with his father, right? So when he started it, he learned the basics from his father. How his knives look right now is quite a bit different from what it used to look like. Even the knives that we've had in the past, like I think one of the Kevin's first knives from Takeda-san looks completely different from so he's evolving the way he makes knives over time, and I think that the way that he does right now, especially the finish sharpening, he came up with the idea, because he always tells us that when you're sharpening, you want to see where you're sharpening. So he's always tells us about how he sharpens and how looks. To me, he's very proud of what he's doing and how he's doing. So I didn't specifically ask him where he learned that skill or how he came up with an idea, but looks to me that the way he sharpens or finish sharpening is very much of his own idea.
Originally, he was making knives with Aogami 1, or number 1 blue steel, and Aogami super blue steel. Now he only uses Aogami Super, but the trick is he used to put the Aogami Super and then surround it with carbon steel, but now he surrounds it with stainless steel. And what that does is it kind of removes the rusting issues. They can still rust right along the edge, but the whole blade is not susceptible like the old knives. And 2, it makes the blade really rigid. So he's able to go thinner again, because the blade, basically with the stainless is just really, I don't know the word.
Flexible?
Not flexible.
Rigid.
Stainless is really rigid. So he coats it, or he laminates it now with stainless steel. And the stainless is really rigid, so it doesn't bend.
When he was forging the Aogami Super steel, and what was happening was he was forging it, and almost he was forging into a knife shape. So the tip was actually a little bit more skinnier. After he forged it, it looks almost like a knife, and he didn't have to do much of the grinding. He did, but not as much as he does it right now. What he found is that as he was forging it, probably how the stainless steel stretches or changes its form, along with the carbon steel, the core, it acts differently. So what he told me is that if he forged in the same way as he was forged in the carbon steel clad knives, the coarse steel will somehow or kind of disappears. But that's what he kind of explained to me. If he forges in the same way and as he sharpens it, you can't see the coarse steel exposed anymore. So he had to change the way he forges. That's why now, when he forges it, he forges it a little bit bigger, and he forges in the way that he requires him to grind away much more steel into the shape. But that's the way to make sure there is actually a coarse steel still left on the blade.
So on his spring hammer, you can have a different shaped hammer and a different shaped anvil. And he experiments with different shapes to get thinner and thinner knives. I'd be really interested to see what he's making 10 years from now, to see how they've changed.
When he forges it, he freehands everything. He forges into the basically a plate of steel, and he looks at it. He draws a line a little bit, but he used the heavy grinding tool to make it into the shape, and that was very like a lot of people, a lot of blacksmiths, they either use this press to cut out the shape, or they use this guillotine machine type of stuff to cut the steel off. But he basically does freehand into the shape. So that makes each actually knife pretty unique.
Takeda-san, when he started trying to get the blades, forge them thinner and thinner and thinner. This is when he had talked his dad into this, though. Dad, we're going to change the way we do things. I got an idea. We're going to make the blades real thin. We're going to keep going thinner. And we're going to start making Algami super knives, because that's a really cool new steel. And they expected to make a few mistakes. But he said he was a very slow learner for the forging process. Plus, he was trying to change the whole way they were doing things. So he said he kept making mistakes. And the backyard has actually got a hill in it. And he says that's where he's put all his mistakes. And he said that hill grew over the first 2 years. And it's quite big. He says, yeah, he goes, if you go get a shovel and dig in there, you're just going to find a whole bunch of rusty steel, which I think is hilarious.
Yeah, another unique feature of the Takeda knives is he puts a small heart in his knives, and it's got a Nimi heart, Shosui. Nimi is this town that he's forging knives at. He told me, it does not mean Nimi loves Shosui or the Takeda-san. So for those who watch it, like members, those like glass vial with the little syringe type of stuff, the heart shape sharpening stone was in Japan used to score the vial, to cut the vial open.
So we just had a huge shipment of Takeda-san knives. They are going to be available today, July 4th at 10 a.m. Mountain Time. We've got a selection in each shop, and we've got a bunch for purchase online. And they're going to go fast. They're going to go like today. They're going to be sold out. So if you want one, get on it.
Thanks for watching, and hope you enjoyed the video. If you like this style, leave it in a comment and we can probably do more like this. Thanks for watching.
It opened in my pocket and cut through my pants, cut through the pocket material, and cut my leg badly. But I didn't realize it right away. So it cut me several times, and then once really badly. I was like, what is going on here?